Welcome back, everyone. Today we are interviewing one of my very good friends. His name is Josh Burrows, and he is an entrepreneur here in Medicine Hat. So that's super exciting. In the video, we actually did the podcast at 4:45 in the morning, and he's a very smart guy because he's been waking up early for the better part of this year, whereas I have been snoozing until 7, and as a result, I look homeless in the video. My mic also didn't work very great, so I sound homeless in the video. Josh sounds amazing, looks amazing as per usual. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We talk about purpose, we talk about fitness, and also the Whole30 and how that kind of set a trigger to change his life. I think you'll really get a lot out of it. It is a longer form video than you guys are used to seeing, so it's a little something different, but I think you'll enjoy it very much. And without further ado, let's do this thing.
Do you have some strange questions?
No, well, my first question does involve ghosts.
Ghosts?
Yes, it's actually not a real ghost. You're pretty much a ghost on social media because you don't exist on social media.
Nothing.
So most of the people that actually watch us today have no idea who you are. So why don't you introduce yourself and.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't have social media. The only thing I do have is Pinterest, which is hilarious. My wife got me on it. Pinterest, that's the only thing I have, but that is for strictly ideas.
I would say I've been friends with you for a while now, and I had no idea.
Yeah, you know what? It's only been about 2 months.
Yeah.
So you can't hold it against me, Mikey. But yeah, so I'm Josh Burrows, and I own a cafe with my wife right now in Roastery, and we're just kind of pushing our lives forward into entrepreneurship and growth in all areas of your life.
Yeah.
So I know we're talking about health, but we love all areas of people's lives, including our own. So that's who I am. There's no pictures of me except for right now on these cameras.
It's going to be the first time you're ever on social media.
I'll be back on social media.
Yeah. So you had Facebook at one point.
I had Facebook and I had Instagram, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But you don't realize how it actually, which is actually really interesting because I believe it ties into your overall health. Mm-hmm. Instagram, Facebook, because it can cause anxieties. So I was like, you know what, I gotta get rid of this. And
it's also a huge time vampire. I found in my own life, every time I was on Instagram, well, I still have Instagram, but I mean, every time I am on Instagram, it's so easy to just scroll past and be like, frick, that guy's life is amazing.
Totally.
And not even because you kind of know in your mind that they have the highlight reel effect where you're just seeing the best of theirs, but even so, you're still oh, I really, really want to just be like Peter McKinnon and just make videos all the time and do that for a living. Screw dentistry.
That's right, yeah. And
so,
it's just not real.
Yeah. It's
not real life.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously I didn't have that thinking when I got rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm just gonna get rid of it. It wasn't causing me, it was causing me more stress. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I just gotta get rid of this thing. Mm-hmm. So I got rid of everything in one day. All my profiles, got rid of Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, you name it, gone. Mm-hmm. And then I never went back.
That's crazy.
And I was like, this is the best.
That's awesome. When was that?
I would have been 4.5 years ago.
Okay. So you, I was under the impression you started making these healthy changes in 2017, 2018, but it sounds like it's been going back further than that. Because I know, for example, 2017, 2018, you guys, well, that's when we started meeting you. I knew you for a long time, but in 2018, we got together at that wedding, hung out, and you had mentioned that you were doing the Whole30. Now, what inspired that?
Okay, that's hilarious.
Because the Whole30 is something that's ridiculous. And for those of us who don't know, I think we should explain it at some point.
Yeah, totally.
Tell me the story. Go ahead.
So, and I won't even be able to explain Whole30 because I'm not a food junkie. I'm not that kind of a guy. But Whole30 is pretty much whole foods, vegetables, meats, no preservatives. It's things that are pretty much not created in a lab. Mm-hmm. And it's if you go way back in the day, it's what were we eating way back in the day? Mm-hmm. We were eating stuff out of the garden. We were eating meat, lots of water. So it's just kind of going back to the basics of life and just making sure there's no preservatives. The preservatives are a huge thing that we're ingesting into our bodies that are causing us to have disease and high high inflammation in our bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny because I did Whole30 because of my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe people actually aren't health conscious. You know, I believe everyone just thinks, yeah, I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when you're younger, you're just, it's not even a thought that you're like, oh no, I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Because I used to have a really bad diet.
Yeah.
I used to be in crazy good shape, really into fitness and working out. And
I remember seeing you at Good Life. You're
yeah,
huge.
people will be like,
Yeah.
man, you're huge, right? And you looked really good. But it doesn't mean you're actually healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I've learned over the past couple of years, which helped. My wife helped me huge with that, was being like, hey, just because you look good doesn't mean you're healthy. And I didn't understand that concept because I felt good.
Yeah.
So I thought. And so that's when we introduced Whole30 into our lives and was like, hey, let's try not eating, eating out, fast food, high oils like vegetable oils and like canola oils and stuff like that. So like I said, going back to basics and cooking healthy whole foods, which has been 2 years now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Was that Whole30 like the switch for you, or was there something leading up to that point where you were like some trigger was getting pulled that you realized I need to make a change? Was there something in your body, some way you felt, or what? Because for me, whenever I try to make a change, I would get motivated for like 3 days, like I am about to change my life. And then a week later, I'm back where I started. 2 weeks later, sometimes the changes, they do last a bit longer for me, but most of the time, it's very hard for me to make a meaningful and long-term change in my life. So it's so fascinating to me that you were able to go through this process, and now still to this day, while you're not, following Whole30 rules 100% of the time.
That's right.
I know just from hanging out with you that you guys are really good and really careful with what you eat, and you still have your cheat days and you have fun.
Totally. And we live like an 80-20 rule now.
Yeah.
So when we first did it, we did it 100% no cheating. We didn't even eat a piece of gum. So we did it 100% full out. But now we have an 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Because you still have to enjoy life. And health comes down to first your mindset. You have to create health in your mind first. Before you even think about changing your food habits, it has to become inside first.
Yeah.
You have to know and believe and start thinking I am healthy and that I only do have one body. And it's health is a mixture of, I believe it's like food, and it's a mixture of action and a bit of faith. You have to have faith knowing that at the end of the day you're going to be okay, because you can actually go too far and just always be worrying about your health. But to go back to your question is, when I was 21, I had a kinked intestine, which is really strange. And I think there was two things why that happened. And I think one was a poor diet, and two was high stress. And that was when I was in college, and I'm not an academic person whatsoever. I shouldn't speak that over myself, but I am not I just don't enjoy it, and I find it's a very high stress thing to me. And so I had a kinked intestine, and that caused huge problems. So I was in the hospital for just over a week, and I just remember the doctors were like, yeah, make sure you're not eating, heavy carbs, heavy foods and stuff like that. And it's funny because when that happened, it was actually really terrifying. But that's not what caused me to change, because I didn't have knowledge. And so, yeah, doctors saying don't eat that food, but I didn't have knowledge why I should change my food habits, right? Everyone just thinks they're going to live to 80 or 90 no matter what they're eating. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and especially for those people who maybe have a better metabolism. But I mean, even you think about people who don't get heavier as they eat too much bad food, something's got to give. If you're not putting on weight, maybe it's your liver. I don't know. I don't know the science behind this, but that's just my impression. Your body has to adapt in some way to manage this influx of garbage that you're throwing at it.
100%. Totally. And your liver's taking a beating, and your heart is working so hard. And it takes so much energy for your system to digest the food that you're taking in. And if you're eating heavy foods all the time, high carbs, and when I'm saying heavy foods, I'm saying like things that are like pizzas, like carbs, like heavy carbs. You know what I mean? Like
totally the stuff that after you're done eating it, you just feel like you could never work out again.
Yeah, like you shouldn't be eating this stuff,
Yeah.
but it tastes so good, right? So it is a hard thing. So you have to set your mind on it. So yeah, that didn't actually change my mindset after I got sick. It was after I started retaining knowledge of you should respect your body because this is the only thing that you have to live in. You don't live in your home, you don't live in your shoes, you live in your mind and you live in your body. And I think that's kind of that switch that started coming to me. And I was like, wow, like you can be miserable living in your own body, especially when you do have health issues going on. And I was like, I can slowly start taking action towards having a healthier body and knowing it gives you that peace of mind that you're doing good maintenance on your body. And so, it was my wife that got me into Whole30. She was like, hey, Josh, I really think we should be looking at, having a healthier lifestyle. We're already going to the gym. That's already a habit of ours. And I've heard the saying, it takes 21 days to create a habit and 91 days to create a lifestyle. I actually heard that on Ed Mylett's podcast. And so we're like, hey, well, let's do 40 days of this Whole30. And that was, like I said, 2 years ago. And we just stuck to it because we just felt so good. Once we started cutting sugar out of our system, you just get so much energy and you get so much clarity in your mind and overall health, and you feel good. Like you just feel amazing. So it's just hard to go back now to my old habits.
Oh, I remember. It's like I say, it's already been 2 years. So, do you remember now what the hardest part of doing the Whole30 was? Was it the first 8 days, or was there like a certain part that really stuck out to you that was difficult?
The first week felt terrible because you're not getting in those refined sugars. So you're even past it, like all that is refined sugars, right? It gets broken down and then gets stored in the fats. But I remember my first week having no energy. I could have just slept because you're just so exhausted. And it was hard because you feel like you're hungry all the time. But it's just because you've trained your body for so many years to eat garbage. And now it's starting to have clean fuel. And it just burns through it so fast, right? And your body's just not used to it. So I found it didn't start getting easier until about 2 weeks in. Second week felt great. I was like, hey, I'm actually starting to see the benefits of this. I'm sleeping really well. I used to be a really bad sleeper. I used to sleepwalk and sleep talk.
And the fact that you're up at 4:45 in the morning. Was contemplating going to the gym at 3.
Yeah.
That's crazy, like that you have that much energy now. And
yeah.
To be honest, that's one of the reasons why, well, it's a selfish reason, but one of the reasons why I'm interviewing you for this podcast is because I want a piece of that for my life, and I think everyone can agree when they watch someone who has like all this energy and all this like drive for life, it's an attractive thing, and that is how we're meant to live.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I think eventually we're going to kind of hone in on the topic for today, which is, the role of health and good health in entrepreneurship and how that affects it.
Totally.
But even for the rest of your life, it's just the fact that you can wake up at 4 in the morning and come and do a podcast. That's awesome. Like Josh was already at my door when I was still sleeping in my boxers. He was like, Wenzel, you up? I'm like, no, yes. Got up, made myself a cup of coffee. Josh is drinking water, which is amazing, because what are you doing? Coffee? No coffee for a week.
So just this week, I'm doing no coffee for a week. People think you're crazy. You're like, hey, you own a cafe? You can't be doing that. But it's only for personal reasons. I drink a ton, so I'm like, you know what? It's so good to cut it out and have that balance. And so when I do drink my cup of coffee in a week, you get the health benefits back. You do get that bit of caffeine spike, and so awesome. I'm just cutting it out for a week, and it's just a good habit sometimes. Yeah.
And I've been thinking about just reflecting on the way to maybe change a habit in general. If you want to modulate a habit, I think there might be some value in doing a detox. Like you mentioned the Whole30, you mentioned stopping coffee for a while. because it kind of breaks that emotional connection with the
Totally.
food or with the beverage or whatever it may be, and then you can start to reestablish that connection in a more healthy manner after the fact. So with food now, I'm sure you still have a bit of an emotional connection with pizza, for example.
Totally. Who
But
doesn't love it?
Yeah, but it's probably easier for you now to pick when you're going to have pizza instead of it being like 6 p.m. after work and you're like, oh, I'm so tired, let's go get pizza. It probably
Totally.
doesn't happen as much anymore.
No, it doesn't. And I think you should put kind of brain triggers in your mind to kind of remind you of why you're doing it. So, for instance, for me, when I think about eating something really, really bad, I just kind of go back to my old self and I go, I don't want that, I don't want to risk getting another kinked intestine, even though I believe I will never have that again, and that's where your faith has to kick in. But I just go back to that thought and I'm just like, I just want to be healthy, right? And so that's what helps me. So find that trigger in your brain to why you are wanting to eat healthy and do healthy actions.
Before we jump into the business side of things, what does your current health routine look like? What are you eating? How often are you working out? What does that look like for you?
So like an average day, usually, no one's perfect, and but usually my day looks like I usually get up at about 4:15 to 4:30. I'll slam a big glass of water, so 500 ml to a liter, depending how much I can handle. And I usually eat a Whole30 breakfast, so it's usually like organic potatoes, eggs, and then there are some bacons that you can have. People are probably gonna laugh. Bacon, that doesn't sound healthy. It's high in fats, so sometimes it's not the greatest, but as long as you're eating the bacons without the nitrates and the phosphates in it, that's generally okay. In Whole30, you can get Whole30 bacon. So I usually eat a big breakfast like that, and then sometimes I'll have oatmeal, even though that is not part of Whole30. That's something that I've added into my diet that works for me, right?
Yeah.
And
I think that's something that people need to keep in mind too, is that like just because a website or some guy created this system, which
Totally.
of course has thought behind it, but just because that's the system doesn't mean that after you're done those first 30 days that you have to follow it to a T.
Totally.
You can modify it, make it your own, and even with the bacon thing, like
Yeah.
Maybe bacon's not the healthiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But the reality is if you're eating healthy in all these other areas, then
Totally.
you can afford to have some bacon, and you
Absolutely.
still gotta live too, right?
Yeah, you still got to live, and you're totally right. It's just someone's opinion on health, right?
Yeah.
So you still have to take in that knowledge and apply it, and make sure, obviously, you're not eating bacon or something bad like that out of the feelings of what you get when you eat bacon, right? Like, oh, who doesn't like eating bacon?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll eat a big breakfast like that. And a big thing for my healthy routine is it's so quiet in the morning, and I just find that is overall healthy for me. And what I'm thinking about is when I'm eating and I'm drinking early in the morning, I'll usually put on like a podcast, or sometimes I'll meditate, maybe I'll pray for a little bit, and that to me is overall health. And like I said before, it's a mindset. Yeah. Health is strictly a mindset for sure. That's the main thing. And I wake up with try to like being thankful and having those feelings of that life is good, because there's so much wrong sometimes in the world that we can take on if we're not careful. So when I'm eating, I'm kind of listening to positive podcasts, or I'm listening to speakers, right? And then I'll start moseying on my way down to the gym around 5:15, and then I usually start my session at about 5:20, and then I have it broken down to doing sets where I will do my set for 45 seconds, or my breaks for 45 seconds, sorry. I'll do a set and then break for 45 seconds. And then that way I am out of the gym by 6 o'clock.
Wow, pretty quick.
So it's pretty quick.
That's effective, obviously.
It's very effective, and it helps my mind break down the gym. And it makes me stay focused with taking 45-second breaks. If I have time, then I'll have a sauna and then a cold shower for 5 minutes. And I actually feel the cold shower to me was really helping me, because obviously nobody wants to stand in a cold shower in the mornings. But yet again, it's very healthy for your mind because your body's saying, hey, I don't want to do this, but you're telling your body what to do. And I found that's where I started getting a lot of my benefits from, was when I was starting to learn to tell my body what to do.
Yeah.
And that's what helped me so much in my routine right now.
Yeah.
And then obviously, once I'm done my sauna and my cold shower, I feel like $1,000,000. So then it's such a good way to start my day. So I've already started my day off with healthy routines, healthy mindset, healthy habits. And then I go down to the cafe, and I usually start getting the cafe ready for open.
Yeah.
But I usually spend 20 minutes in reading and prayer, which is, yet again, has to all tie into health.
And your mind.
And your mind.
I think that's the recurring theme here is that, you can feed yourself Whole30 all you want, but if you're not taking care of your mind, then you're going to be in trouble.
Totally. So there's so many points to that, and I'll start back quickly. I believe your morning starts when you go to bed. It doesn't actually start in the morning, and I heard that by Bill Johnson.
Okay.
And it's so true, because if you have a terrible sleep, your day is ruined. You know what I mean? So you're actually starting your day with a healthy sleep routine. So I usually cut my food intake by 7 o'clock at night. So that way, if I go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, my food is already starting to digest, and my body isn't working on breaking down that food, and it can actually concentrate on rest and repair, which is what it was meant to do.
It always amazes me how diligent you guys are, because when Natalia and I hang out with you, I'm like, hey, Josh, want a beer? You're like, I would love a beer. And then you never end up having one. I'm just like, what the heck? So, you always make me feel good for offering, but then you don't actually end up partaking, which is amazing. I respect that.
Yeah.
And good for you. I just wish I could get to that point where, I could get over that emotional connection to the things. Not that I drink a lot of beer, but
Totally.
There's something about, after a long day and you have a beer in the fridge, you're like, 100% I'm drinking that beer.
Totally.
Because it's more so not even the flavor of it, but just that emotional connection with it.
Totally.
And I want to get to the point where I can tell my body what to do.
Yeah.
And I was doing cold showers for a little bit in the fall there, and I really did find that way. It gives you some resilience, and even if something were to not go your way, then you're like, oh, well, I have cold showers every morning. I'm like a freaking strong person now inside. My heart is strong. And it just kind of gave you that resilience. But
Totally.
I find that was the biggest thing, is when I was doing cold showers, a lot of other things were going right too. And I don't know if it was because of that. I've heard in certain books, like Atomic Habits, you and I've discussed before, they talk about the keystone habit, where if you do one major thing right, then all these other things go right for you as well. It's kind of like in the morning, if you get onto the right on-ramp and you're going on the right road, then you're going to get to your destination much faster if you made one poor decision at the very start of the day and got into the wrong road. It doesn't matter how many right turns you make after that wrong turn, you're still going to end up in a place or you're going to get to that place much, much slower. Or
Totally.
end up in a completely different place.
Totally.
It's one of those things where I think you have to be really, really mindful and deliberate about how you choose to spend your mornings.
Totally.
Like today's gonna be great, Start with a podcast. There's
Today's
no
gonna be
better
great.
way.
And there's no stress right now.
Yeah.
We're not looking at our watches, but do I have to be at work right now?
Yeah.
Because we know mentally we don't have to be at work for quite a while.
Yeah.
So you're not racing off the covers and ripping out of bed and not eating and then going right to work right away, right? That's so unhealthy for your brain.
Yeah.
Because you're just firing off stress immediately. And that, to me, in the world, is why we have so much disease in the world, is because of high stress. We're always, and forget who I heard this from, but disease is dis-ease, right? And we're always
interesting. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just because we're not at ease, we're not at peace. And like I said, that's where health is such a huge mindset and faith, because at the end of the day, you have to know that you're going to be okay. And I think even just having that mindset and believing that your body is healthy and God designed it to take care of itself will bring you so much peace at the end of the day, and so much health beyond anything you can have. So that, to me, is key before food. Once you start getting the habit of mindset, then start adding the small habits of food and exercise. And health is a huge thing on a role of your environment. You need to create the environment that's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Who you're hanging around, who you're listening to, who you're talking to, because people can actually place, I believe, kind of like a word curse over you by not even knowing it, but just by speaking of ill health.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you can take that on subconsciously, and that's where your habits obviously originate from. And when you're growing up, when you're a kid, you take it all your bad habits and your good habits from your parents, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not like they know any different, right? They're just trying to raise you, so you just have to be aware and conscious and gaining knowledge to be able to put these habits into your life.
Totally. And I 100% agree with especially the fact that, you know, who you surround yourself with, because, you know, we've had different friends throughout our lives, and
Yeah.
you know, especially when I was in high school, none of my guy friends had any good habits going. It was just like play World of Warcraft and, you know, eat chips all day long, and of course we all put on a little bit of weight,
Yeah.
right? Despite our amazing metabolisms. But now, like, honestly, since we started hanging out with you and Shreen, like, even though we may not have those habits established and like rock solid, there's always, you kind of feel that tension, right?
Totally.
It's like, okay, I want to get to this point, and how do I do that? And you're always asking yourself that question. And I feel like there's nothing more powerful. Well, there's probably something more powerful, but it's a powerful thing to have an unanswered question in your life, one that nags at you constantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a mini vision that you want to fulfill for yourself. And you know, by hanging around people who are better than you, and you find that tension in your life, and it's a good tension. It's something that pulls you forward, pulls you up. So,
Totally.
Yeah, it's cool.
And we are definitely not better than you guys. Okay, let's get that first, guys.
In a lot of ways, you guys have life figured out.
Oh my goodness.
Incredibly well, and like just the fact that you've had these routines so solidly entrenched in your life for so long, like that's awesome. And like I need to take a page from your book for sure. Seriously. But I wanted to definitely talk about today, like how you feel being healthy, because you owned the cafe before you started the Whole30, hey?
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
How long did you have the cafe for before that point?
Before we did it, we owned it for, I think, about 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe that was one of the triggers. Hey, you realize like now you're running a business and there's a lot more responsibility in your life.
Totally.
I don't know if that influenced you at all, but I was curious to ask, like, before and after, like how being an entrepreneur, especially one who's, you don't just have eyes for the cafe, but you have eyes for a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
How has being healthy and getting into these healthy routines influenced, you know, entrepreneurship, or helped you be a better entrepreneur, if it has at all?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things of entrepreneurship is, and not just entrepreneurship, everyone in life. I think everybody in life always wants more. Mm-hmm. They either want more finances, or they want more peace and happiness, or better, healthier relationships. And so I think for me, when I finally got into entrepreneurship with Katrina, it was like, now you're on your own. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't working for somebody. I didn't have that stable position. And so now it's like, hey, we're on our own. We have no choice but to like get better.
Yeah.
And so that's where like retaining more knowledge came very attractive to me, because I was like, what are other people doing to run a better business and grow a business while making sure that you have a balance in your own life, to grow yourself and your relationship and the people around you. And so my biggest habit to me is reading, getting around better people and reading. That is one of the healthiest habits you can ever have. And as long as they're the right people, just because someone has money or, you know, a nice car doesn't mean they've actually have good, healthy habits. I mean that you should hang around those people. You should have a healthier mindset and actually bring some fulfillment to you, and vice versa. And you should bring that to that person too. But reading on people's habits is what got me very interested in changing my own life. Mm-hmm. And just being like, hey, there's a recipe to everything. It's like, if you want to become a plumber, for instance, then you got to follow these habits. You know, find a job, work, then you do 2 months of education, work, you know, and then eventually you hang around someone who's a journeyman, you're going to become a plumber.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, well, if I start adding the habits of people who are, quote unquote, successful in their lives, and I was like, hey, I can put these recipes in my own life and start getting them.
Yeah.
And that's when it took it actually took about 1.5 to 2 years of adding these habits. And that's where perseverance comes in, because we started adding these habits in and we were seeing our life getting better. Our bodies were getting healthier. Our mindset was getting clear. Our sleep patterns were amazing.
And even from knowing you, more opportunities have kind of reared their
More opportunities are coming,
heads.
right?
Yeah.
Because when you finally sit at tables of people who you find successful, right? First, you have to define success.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very healthy, is define what success is to you. Mm-hmm. And so once you do sit at the table, say like a dinner table, with people who you find who are successful, when they ask about your life and you're like, hey, yeah, like I eat this and I eat that, they're going to question, be like, oh, why do you eat certain ways?
That's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just like, to me, it's an open door for influence, because ultimately I want my life to have influence on this world in a positive way, because I just see there's so much hurt and pain out there. And I'm like, I believe that we can bring some peace to it, right? And by adding healthy habits and a healthy mindset to people. So, like I said, yeah, it was watching all these people who I look up to. Tony Robbins, Ed Milet. There's so many people and people in our lives that God has brought into our lives here in Medicine Hat even. And so just kind of following what they're doing and what worked for them, and then figuring out what works for myself, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's been a huge change.
Yeah. I've heard Terry Crews. Do you know who Terry Crews is?
I'm not sure.
He's like a black actor who what is he in Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Okay, yeah.
And he's like the coolest guy.
Yeah,
ever.
I know who he is now.
Yeah. So he says, what does he say? On his podcast with Tim Ferriss, he was like, if you want to be a fit person, do what a fit person does.
That's right.
And that totally reminded me exactly of what you just said. You know, with like, if you want to be a plumber, you got to get these habits down. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. Sometimes it's so simple, but it's just the execution of that becomes difficult.
Totally.
Right?
It comes down to choices and decisions. Your decisions are very powerful in your life. And that's what you should be well aware of, that your decisions and your day-to-day habits will have a huge impact on your life. And I don't think people realize that, because once you graduate high school and go to college and then finally get your job, we kind of almost go to sleep. We just kind of just live through life without being aware of where we actually want to go in life, right? So we stop putting habits into our life and we just pretty much sleep at the wheel.
And it gets scary because time starts to pass way faster, it almost seems. And I think that happens regardless of what you're doing.
Totally.
But when there is something novel in your life every day, you're constantly growing, then I do think that life starts to feel more full when you look back at it. Because, I remember 2017, that's the year I implemented Whole30.
Totally.
For example.
Yeah.
And you start kind of creating these milestones in your life, whereas for me, most of the milestones happened, between 10 and 20. But after 20, it's like, I'm going to work every day, dentist, drill some teeth, go home, and that's my day, right? And you still have like all those fun things that you do in between, but it's harder to see the milestones, and I think that becomes an issue too, because you have nothing to measure your life by.
There's no goals.
Yeah.
You're not achieving anything, and that's very being on the subject of health, it's very healthy to always attain goals in your life, and setting out a clear vision for your life, exactly what you were designed to do, is a very healthy habit to do. So figuring out who you are and figuring out what it is that you truly want in life, and setting those goals and achieving them, I believe creates purpose, which is overall health. You know what I mean? That is so healthy for your body.
I'm curious about how this whole 30 process, getting healthy, changing your life with these healthier habits, how it was influenced by your relationship with your wife, because I know that she has a pretty like-minded way about her.
Yeah, my wife had huge influence on it. And that's why, yet again, overall health is who you surround yourself with, and who you choose to be your life partner is very huge. I think that can give you overall health or decrease your health if you make the wrong decision in your partner, right? And she influences me huge in that, because she is such a go-getter herself, and she has taught me something very valuable in life, that life, because of her life circumstances, that life is very fragile. And you don't live in fear, but you live in knowledge. And she helped push me, being like, let's do this Whole30 thing, because she used to be into fitness and bodybuilding and all that type of stuff. And like she said too, just because I looked really fit doesn't mean that I was really healthy. Because, you're eating things that say 0 calories, right? But really, all the food is technically made in a lab.
Diet Coke's fine though, right?
Diet Coke is perfect for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people go, oh, there's 0 calories in this. This is healthy. Or they go, it's, this is handmade pasta or whatever, right? But not knowing that the wheat has been sprayed with tons of herbicides and all that, right? You're ingesting all that food, right? Having that relationship is key, because we wake up every morning, and a lot, especially on Saturdays and Sundays, it's like our time to have that healthy relationship building time. So we usually get up, we enjoy coffee together, we relax, we pray, we meditate, we read. And like I said, this is giving you overall health. To have that person with you to push you to that next level is extremely healthy, right? We're not turning the news on when you wake up in the morning. We don't even have TV in our house. Like, we do have TV, but we don't have cable or anything. And, we limit ourselves to how much Netflix or TV time we're actually going to have. Because most things that you're putting into your mind is not healthy, right? So you have to be very aware of what you're listening to, who you're hanging around. So, my wife is a huge key to that. And she's an amazing cook. So that is a huge thing. But another thing that's healthy for the relationship is we do it together. And that's what I think creates a strong marriage, is actually doing things together,
Can't show Natalia this part of the podcast because I do not help her cook at all.
That's right.
But
so
I need to. It's something I need to learn for
that's
sure.
right. You might have to hide this one. But we have found that has created our marriage to be really strong, to do everything together. We do business together. We cook together. We go on walks together. We live life together.
Yeah.
We grow together. And that just has a huge part in health.
When we were actually flying back from Europe, Natalia was like, you know what? Well, if we want to eat healthier, maybe we should do what Josh and Katrina do. We should start meal planning on the Sundays. And it happened to be Sunday when we were flying home. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I think when you start taking a role in it and then you start owning it, it becomes easier to participate. Because I've never thought of myself as a cook. Like, I am not comfortable in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I think when you plan it ahead of time, you decide, okay, this is what we're going to do and this is when we're going to do it, then it gives you a bit more of like an internal blueprint of how this is going to go, and you start to feel more a part of the process. And speaking of relationships, I just know the few times in my marriage, it's been 5 years now, where there was an argument or whatever, we get along very well, but there's always an argument in every marriage.
Yeah.
And when those arguments haven't been resolved, like, you just can't function.
That's right.
And I think when it comes to your overall health, you mentioned dis-ease before.
Yeah.
I think peace with everyone around you and, like, the people who are core to your life, like, having those relationships solid, and when there is a problem, you resolve it.
Totally.
I think that's super important, too. Whether it's your coworker, your boss, or your wife. Like, you really need to keep those people... those relationships good and have the integrity there.
Totally. Because you will manifest everything that you are concentrating and focusing on in your mind will eventually manifest. So if you're if you're thinking unhealthy thoughts, you're going to get unhealthy things in your life, right? So that's why you need to think healthy thoughts and, like you said, resolve those situations in your life, so then you're not going back home being ticked off and you're, like I said, at just ease with somebody, right? And you're
Yeah.
tense, and yeah, it's just very unhealthy. And going back to the cooking habits, when you're like, oh, I'm not a cook, I'm not a chef, and it's neither am I.
Yeah.
But it is habits. So it's like, instead of going to the cupboard and grabbing a bag of chips, it's just going to the cupboard and grabbing something that's healthier. Maybe one of my things that got me through Whole30, which is really, really funny, it's too high in sodium, but you can still eat it at small amounts, is I would take prosciutto and I would wrap it in cucumbers.
Uh-huh.
And because I'm a salt guy, I'm not a sugar guy, but I'm a salt guy. So that would be like something, instead of eating chips, I just eat a piece of prosciutto and cucumbers or something, right? So it's just kind of just redirecting your habit to bag of chips or something healthier, right?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
And it does get easier.
And I thought too, like, it's establishing those decisions ahead of time. So
Totally.
when you're at the grocery store, I do believe it's easier to pick up a pack of prosciutto then, instead of the chips, than it is to be at home and have like the prosciutto next to the chips. You're like,
That's right.
Which one should I choose? You know, of course you're gonna go for the option that, unless you're in a really good state of mind, it's so much easier to pick the easy option.
Totally.
So I think if you develop these, like you mentioned, design the environment ahead of time so that when you do go to your cupboard, when you're in a bad place and you're hungry and you're just craving something terrible, the prosciutto is the first thing you see, or this other snack that you've prepared for yourself ahead of time, then of course that's what you're going to eat. But I think having those things available to you that aren't good in a very easy to access place is very dangerous. I don't care how much self-control you have.
Totally.
You can run into a problem for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so creating that environment is very huge with health. So your sleep patterns, you got to create that environment, right? So you should have zero screen time for 1 to 2 hours before. I always start dimming my lights down. It's almost like a natural thing. It's like your body's naturally telling, hey, the sun's going down, you should start winding down too. Yeah. And so, like I said, I stop eating around 7 o'clock, even a little earlier if I can. Bring the lights down and no screen time. Start reading or going for a walk with Trine or hanging out with friends, stuff like that. But I always have a little diffuser with natural organic oils and stuff like that when I'm sleeping. And it just creates that environment for being tired. So then you have a good sleep. Yeah. And then you can start your day off at 100%. Yeah. So the environment's key.
Yeah, another thing that James Clear from Atomic Habits, this is really consistent with what he talks about. And one of the things he talks about is like the context, right? Like creating the context that when you go to bed, that bedroom has the context of sleeping. Yeah. It's not where you watch TV. It's not where you spend time on your laptop.
Totally.
It's where you go to sleep and you have sex. And those
That's
are the
right.
only two things that you do in your bedroom.
Totally.
And because those are the only two things that happen, those are the only two things that are going to happen in the future too.
Totally.
So it's one of those things where I think it's separating the context in different parts of your lives. It makes things easier to just happen. So your office is where you do work. Your kitchen is where you cook. All these different places have a different meaning. And that way you can trigger your brain to do the things you want it to do by just or just choosing the appropriate context.
Totally.
Yeah. I actually, for a while, didn't stick. Of course, like I told you, I have a hard time getting these habits to stick. But I even chose a chair. You know, the chair upstairs. It's like white. It's
yeah.
Like, that was my reading chair for a while, and I haven't sat there recently, so I haven't read much. But you know, the idea I think is sound, and if you practice it over and over, it can work. But what I found in my own life is that if you try to like do too many habits or too many changes, because you get excited, right? You know, like we do a podcast like this, I'm like, I want to change my life. You know,
yeah.
Everything is going to be better tomorrow. But then that's not practical. I think you have to slowly build it. And that's what you've done too. It's not like you started all these habits overnight. You've had a chance to build them slowly and you know, brick by brick, and now look where you are, right? In such a better place. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it helps when you're wanting to create habits to really dig deep and go really personal with yourself and just be honest with yourself to like why you're wanting these habits, you know, and why you're just wanting a better lifestyle, right? And so for me, when I meditate on something extremely positive, where I want to go in my life, and I think of big things, because I think it's so healthy to think big. Like, you have a choice to think small or think big. So you might as well think big. And it's very healthy to show your brain that you're going to have a very bright future.
Yeah.
And that just brings overall health to your bones. You can feel that butterfly in your stomach. You can feel that feeling almost in your spirit. And that is a very healthy thing. And I don't think we do that enough today, is meditate in a way that you're thinking of something that you're wanting to attain.
Yeah.
As long as it's healthy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And
well, it brings that hope to your life, right?
Hope.
I've had that too, where even in school, you know, you set a goal like, I want to get into dental school. And then suddenly you have purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
And as soon as you have that purpose, like, hope abounds in your life, and you'll do everything you can to achieve it. And it's like an exciting feeling, like you say, deep down in your bones and your spirit, where you're okay with the work because you know it's for a purpose.
Yeah.
They talk about, I can't remember what book it was. I think it was actually in Visioneering, where he's talking about this guy just, you know, loading sandbags, and he's just like doing hard labor all day. And someone asked him, it's like, don't you get tired just loading sandbags all day, or like just putting the sandbags? He's like, I'm not doing this. I'm saving my city.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not loading the sandbags. I'm saving my city.
That's right.
And it's because he had that clear purpose in mind.
Yeah.
The work became easy.
Bigger picture.
Yeah. And that's something in my life where it's so easy to fall out of purpose and fall into routine.
Yeah.
Where you're just going to work because that's what you've established for yourself as your routine.
Yeah.
But when you go to work every day and there's a bigger picture, like you mentioned, then that feeling, and I think that's a really good GPS to have. Is that feeling, like, is that feeling in my life? If it's not, what do I need to change?
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, I know you don't have social media, but I know that your business does.
Yeah.
So it's at MH Roastery on Instagram, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. And then if you ever join social media again, where do you think it would be?
So actually, we have been thinking about doing social media again, and so my wife and I are trying to figure that out right now. We'll probably do one together, kind of like a couples one.
Okay.
And that'll kind of have to do with, obviously, overall life, you know, the habits that you're placing in your relationships, the people, the way you speak, the way you think, your business, and not just in business, your work, everything. So we're kind of thinking, you know, what platform do we use? How do we do it?
So you're still in the process of kind of...
So we're still in the process and thinking of doing
I'll
that.
make sure, like, once you create that account, I'll put it in the notes below.
Deal.
And that way people can follow you.
Done.
Obviously, after, you know, this hour that we spent together, it's pretty clear that you're someone that we should follow, because you've got some good habits. You've got life pretty much figured out. And I know that from your perspective, you never feel like you have life figured out. But relatively, it's so nice to see someone who's like not some celebrity, right? And that's the point of this show, is to be talking to people who aren't like these huge stars.
Totally.
Of course, I don't have access to huge stars anyways.
You will.
But yeah, there you go.
See?
But it's those things where the people who are in the nitty-gritty bits of life, where, you know, you're in a business, you're trying to make it thrive, and you have other things on the horizon, and you know, you're not there yet in terms of what we say.
Totally.
But it's so nice to see that it's the journey that counts. I know that sounds super cliche,
but it's true.
But it's true. Yeah.
And being content in the journey.
Yeah.
Too.
And I always have noticed that too in my own life, where you look back later, you know, I look at dental school, I'm like, oh, how fun that was. But in the process, all I could think about was, you know, getting it done.
Totally.
Graduated, having a ticket, you know. And it's good to remind yourself that life is called life for a reason. You know, it's the whole thing that counts. It's not just where you're going. So cool, man. Thanks so much for being on the show, and appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime. I'm sure the listeners will love you, and they'll ask for you back. Okay. Cool, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you made it to the end, congratulations. Sitting here for an hour is amazing, and you deserve a medal. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel. That's really going to help me garner more influence and make more videos like this and interview more awesome people like Josh. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.